G'day guys and girls, thanks for joining us for another stream ahead of round 10 for team announcements. Just letting a bit of time pass before a few more people start streaming in for the stream. Bit of a unintended pun there. Thanks for joining us, Oxermos, and likewise Madara. Hope everything is well and your teams are going well as well. Don't mind me just posting across a couple of channels here. G'day Freeze, how are you, mate? Teams are, I think they're released at 6:25. Is that right? Used to be 6:25. I assume that's the case. I've started a little bit earlier today, just to allow for a few people to send in some questions, because previously I've started the stream as the teams have dropped. So just to sort of condense the stream, I know last time it kind of blew out to over an hour and a bit potentially from memory. So if you have any questions, try and keep them general as well. I mean, if there's anything with regards to your own team, always happy to help, of course. But if there's any sort of questions that might be able to help other people as well, feel free to send those in. Let me just check that those posts went up correctly. Hope everything's going well though, ahead of buys. If you haven't checked out our weekly podcast as yet, and apologies for those people that love to tune in or prefer to tune in via the audio podcast. We had some issues through Podbean, and we had pretty much a whole 24 hours where there was an error on their end. We'd upload it, but it wasn't playable, and the kind folk there weren't much help for a little while, so it meant that it was delayed by a whole day. But if you are keen to listen, if you are an avid listener, you can now do so if you haven't seen our latest updates. And of course, you can check out the vodcast episode across YouTube as well. Just check out the channel and you'll see the link there. Likewise as well, my team talk. So if you want to get a bit of an insight into my team, it's going great guns at the moment. Thankfully, it's kind of hit its straps, which is pleasing to see. But if you want to check out the Damo's team talk, feel free to do so as well. But at the moment, the big discussion point, and I think it'll start ramping up, is to do with the buys, because we're only round 12. I think there's a couple of people, a couple of weeks before the buys hit, and people have reached out and said, should I go for this player or should I go for player, A or B? But I think first and foremost at this stage of the season, you need to ask yourself first and foremost, will it work in with your buys? So that's something to really have front of mind going forward ahead of the first buy in round 12. So we'll see how we go. Madeira, I'll just get into the questions just briefly here. Madeira, can you check my team? I did a double downgrade this week. Humphrey and Sharp in. With that cash, bring in Neil and Dawson next 2 weeks. Love it, mate. Sounds awesome. Really, really good strategy there to bring in Neil. He's kind of one that I've got front of mind for my own team. I've thankfully only got 3 rookies on field to go. Chincotta. Who else is in the midfield? I forget who's in the midfield. Kind of looping at the moment in the midfield and up forward. So still 3 rookies, but Neil's one that I'm looking at personally. I'm not too buoyed by his recent form though. He's completely dropped off the edge of the cliff really in terms of his scoring compared to previous years, and I think it's a lot to do with the inclusion of Ashcroft and Dunkley, which is kind of, we did all speculate as to how that would impact him at the start of the season, but I think now we're kind of getting a bit of an insight into that a little bit more. But still, he is very good value at the moment. And Dawson, I got him in last week as well, and absolutely delivered a shit score first up, which wasn't ideal. But he is a definite must-get keeper in your side. And the DPP is quite handy as well going forward. But in short, love those trades, Madeira. Freeze, apologies, mate. It's with regards to the issue with the audio podcast. Podbean, I was not too happy, and I am considering, Liam and I are both considering switching from Podbean to another podcast platform. The other thing is that it's really strange because our audio or listenership has grown, which is always awesome, and really appreciative of people tuning in. But normally they trigger monetization, so they can incorporate some ads into your pre-roll, what they call a pre-roll, mid-roll, or a post-roll. So at those different points in your podcast, and you can monetize the podcast, which it'd be awesome to sort of offset the cost of yearly subscription for Podbean, which at the moment it was $150 and it's gone up to $175. So a bit out of pocket there, but that sort of stuff would obviously help offset costs. And then on top of that would mean that we'll be able to longer term potentially release some more merch, which are kind of in the pipeline at the moment as a bit of a sneak preview. But we'll think about that later on. And just speaking of merch as well, you'll notice I'm wearing a hat here from Moriera's Magic's AFLW Fantasy, which is, I think this season was its second year in inception. And hopefully I haven't come off the side here, but let me just turn to the side. Which side is it? That side. You'll see here, I can't see it. It is rank 76, so it's 76. I was in the top 100 for AFLW Fantasy, which is pretty cool. Not the most premium of hats, because the numbers are starting to fall off already. They just stuck on, but pretty cool that received the free hat. So a bit of a shout out to Moriera's Magic. Does some awesome stuff in fantasy, but also in SuperCoach, which is doubling it at the moment. And his philosophies are awesome, so check him out if you haven't as well. Just redirecting back to the questions, we've got about 8 minutes before teams drop. Oxymos, let's hope there's no more carnage. I can't afford it. Does Sharp have job security? That's the big question, mate. And if you tuned into our weekly podcast, Liam and I both said that the ideal thing would be to see Rich come back into the side, but also have Sharp keep his spot in the side, because I think he's the one direct, competitor to his spot. So I put it out there in the universe. That's manifested. If Rich comes back in, if Sharp keeps his spot, I'm going to be confident that his job security, at least in the short to medium term, is going to be a little bit more sound. So if that happens, I will be choosing Sharp personally. If not, I'll probably be looking elsewhere. Also, a bit buoyant with Chesser as well. Chesser, I think in terms of the Eagles' injuries, he should have a bit of job security. Likewise, Drury at North Melbourne. So it's not the end of the world. I mean, those guys haven't been the best scorers of those two that have played, but is what it is. But yeah, just wait and see with that. Ox. Madeira, would love some tips because I got Mills in last week. Yeah, that's just purely bad luck, mate. Can't do much about that. He did look like he was really good value, but just wasn't to be, unfortunately. Michael says, if Fife is the sub again and scores another 25, what's your thoughts on bypassing Humphries and getting Fife after his bye instead? Hopefully he won't be sub after his bye. There's a few things I could say about Fife, but to keep it short and blunt, he will never grace my side ever again. I've said that probably about 8-9 times across the journey, and each time he's found his way into my side. It's kind of like that meme in The Simpsons where Moe's like throwing Barney out of the bar and then wipes his hands, and the next minute he's got Barney popping up behind him. That's literally me and Fife. Like, he finds his way into my team somehow, some way. But for me, I'm going to be bypassing Fife. He's at the stage of the career now where he's not fit. His body's breaking down more than what it was previously. And he's not going to have the fitness to run out games to score high enough to warrant a selection. So even so, like, even at that low price point, he doesn't have that side of his game anymore where he can score well enough to really warrant a spot, first and foremost in your team, your starting 18, but then on your bench as well. So yeah, it's starting 22. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think people will get fooled by him. But if I was to choose between both, and if you're choosing between both in terms of cash cow potential and what money they can make you, Fife hasn't got any cash cow potential at all. Because chances are he's going to start a sub or be subbed out of the game or get injured. Whereas Humphrey B. Bear, he is going to make at least 80k minimum. And his job security is very, very sound. He's going to stay in Gold Coast side now for the rest of the season, I reckon, and put in a couple of good performances as well, which also helps. So hopefully that answers your questions. Alrighty, we're about 5 minutes away from teams dropping. Let me just put out another tweet/Facebook post, and we will be underway very, very shortly. But yes, feel free in the meantime to flick through your questions that you may have with regards to your own team, potential changes. Wardlaw, if you haven't seen it yet, has been announced as a debutant for this week for North Melbourne, which is awesome, first and foremost, for our North fans, because they've dealt with a fair bit of shit across the season to date, and especially today with the news that Clarko is stepping down indefinitely. But yeah, he's averaging 18 disposal in the VFL. He's a contested beast, averaging 6 tackles a game. So I think he's well suited to the SuperCoach style of scoring. But even so, he's at a high price point first and foremost, and he hasn't even played a game yet. So don't get him into your sides just yet. But for me personally, he's kind of at the price point. He's cheaper than Humphrey. And I think if you're going for Humphrey, you probably can't afford to go for Wardlaw in a couple of weeks' time, just because of how much cash you have to fork out. You're going to have to trade someone like a high price point, like a Wilmot, a Cowan, one of those guys to him in order to fund it. And if it's someone of the price point of a Cowan, it's virtually a sideways trade. So I don't know if you can warrant it. It's virtually considered a rookie correction because you're not really getting any instant cash return from that trade. So that's why I'm not as, not as excited to bring in Humphrey as what I would be if it was the start of the season. But it comes down to how your team's structured, how many trades you have left. Personally, I've only got 15 trades left, and whilst I've only got 3 rookies to upgrade, I still want to keep trades aside for injuries, suspensions, all that sort of stuff down the line. So don't want to be looking back and kicking myself. Someone like Abs Magic did towards the end of last year, where he got a big jump on the competition and then found out he ran out of trades, and due to injuries, namely to Hewitt, he found that he was having to swallow some donuts, and not the tasty kind either. All right, let me just flick back across to the stream. Tim, g'day Tim, thanks for joining us, mate. As ins, DeGoey, Rowell and Humphrey or Goulden in for one of DeGoey, Rowell and Humphrey into Sharpberry or Drury. I don't know what you mean there, mate. If you're considering Goulden, I'd be going for him, absolutely. I think there's upside there without Mills in the team. He was starting to get a few more CBAs, which would have eaten into Goulden. So I think go for Goulden first and foremost. So that's pretty much that. And teams have dropped 620. I thought it was 625. Maybe I'm just thinking of something else completely. I'm just completely drunk. Alrighty, so let me flick across to, you'll see this in a moment. Hopefully this fills the screen correctly. Alrighty. Cool. Alrighty, so let's go through some teams. We'll just scroll down and we'll digest them team by team. So first up, we've got, I assume Port Adelaide, trying to throw us all off with this indigenous name there. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. They've got Burne-Jones in, Lysett in, the big one here, because it impacts those that went for Teakle, unfortunately. He has been omitted. I didn't even realise Jackson Mead was in the side. Marshall out with concussion again, unfortunate for him. But Lysett, again, for those people that had Teakle, you're going to have to... Hopefully he didn't have him R2. We said don't do that if you're looking at him. But hopefully he's generated a little bit of cash. I don't know how much, but hopefully it's paid off to some extent. But unfortunate. Nam, which is Melbourne, of course. In, they have Salem and McDonald. Out goes non-Supercoach relevant players, Sparrow, Petty and Jordan. On Saturday, North Melbourne v Sydney. North, there's a few ins and a few outs. Gee whiz. Because they copped a few injuries, of course. We've got Aaron Hall coming back into the side. Will Phillips, who's been on the outer. Tom Powell, Coleman Jones. Wardlaw making his debut, of course. And Ford as well. Out goes Taylor, Core, Perez, Tucker. Suspensions, omissions, concussions. Zerha hurt his face. Didn't even realise that happened. LDU, for those people that have him. He's going to be out for, you'd think, probably at a minimum 2 weeks, if not 3, could be more. A lot of us had him in our sides, but bit the bullet, got rid of him due to that those foot injuries, and now it's just unfortunate he's got that hamstring injury. So look to move him on. Then we've got Josh Marnie as well. Josh Marnie? Yeah. With a shoulder going out of the side. For Sydney, in comes Stevens, Laddams, and McAndrew. For the outs, we have McDonald, Hickey, Mills, which is unfortunate for those people, as we said, that traded him in last week. So big takeaways there. Aaron Hall, how does it impact Zeeble? He's played already alongside Zeeble and Sheasel, and they both scored relatively well, so shouldn't be too worried about that. Phillips, I can't imagine many people would have held on to him. If they did, it probably would have been as a loophole option, but it would have been an expensive one at that, so probably doesn't affect many people at the moment. But Waterloo, keep an eye on him over the next couple of weeks as a potential cash cow upgrade, but an expensive one at that. Moving on to the next game, and we have the Bulldogs and Adelaide. So Bulldogs, in comes Tim O'Brien, out goes Keith and McNeil, both SuperCoach irrelevant players. Adelaide, Nick Murray comes in, Gallant and Himmelberg, out goes Doty, Thilthorpe, Walker and McHenry. There's a few talls that have gone out of the side there. Then we have Freo up against Geelong, and there's no changes at the moment apart from Erasmus going out, and Fife should come into the team. Geelong, they've got Henry coming in, Close, Stengel. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Oh, thank God Simpson survives. So too does Nevitt. Dempsey, unfortunately, is a victim. Here goes Duncan, injured as well. Geez, he's copping a fair few injuries of late. Oh, geez, that is not a good omission to have due to a testicle injury. Fuck me, that would hurt. And then Jai Clark. Jai Clark? I assume so. He just made his debut last week, injured. Unfortunate. For Brisbane, they have no changes at the moment, apart from Ainsworth going out, who was the sub. Gold Coast, Ainsworth comes in. Ainsworth with an O this time. Casbolt and Holman, out goes Oe. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Oe. Tom Berry. So for those who are looking at getting him in, as we spoke about, Liam and I, on the weekly podcast, he was someone with the least job security, just due to the fact that Ainsworth was coming back into the side, like for like, taking his spot. So out here goes, if you are or were looking at him, or if you'd already traded him into your team, reverse that shit. We've got Marbiot Troll omitted again. He's kind of fallen away a fair bit, and Sitzis comes out after he kicked a goal or two on the weekend and looked pretty good. Essendon really comes back into the side for those people that held him. Out, unfortunately, goes Setterfield for those people, again, that held him, but good reason to get rid of him because he's dropping cash en masse, and D'Ambrosio is omitted. Elwyn Davey Jr. keeps his spot and probably should start. It's a strange one because, and I don't know. I mean, Indigenous round and stuff, and I know like they want Indigenous representation, but it always amuses me that they bring in guys purely because they're Indigenous. And I know you want to celebrate the Indigenous side of things, but yeah, it's like, are they providing something to the team? Elwyn Davey, I mean, he's in the team, but previous years it was like Wanganeen came into the side and was on the outer. But yeah, interesting. For Richmond, Nankervis comes back into the side, so it's going to hit, what's his name? Who's the man? Who's the man I'm thinking of? Samson Ryan. It's going to really hit him hard. What am I doing? Wrong way. Samson Ryan. So it's going to hurt his CBAs, which at the moment, he was looking really good. Samson Ryan, especially the past couple of weeks where he had quite a few, he was pretty much number one ruck across the past couple of weeks. 29 hitouts and 31 hitouts, and CBAs were right up there. So unfortunately for him, and for those of us that own him like myself, it does mean that he's going to cop a little bit of a hit in terms of his scoring ceiling. But they still might manage Nankervis, and they might kind of balance it out 50-50 potentially. Miller, the other ruck sort of support for Samson Ryan over the past few weeks, has been omitted. Thompson Dow comes in. Hopper, of course, goes out with that calf injury, so make sure you trade him out. It's going to be out for at least 4 to 6. And Judson Clark as well out, who was the sub. Hawthorn, so they've got a few ins, but of course Sunday games here, so nothing set in stone. Green comes in, Reeves, McDonald, Brockman, Scrimshaw, out goes Wingard and Giath. West Coast, in comes Chesser, which is going to be a little bit of a spanner in the works for those like myself who are considering which cash cow to bring in. But I do like his job security. I'll check out the teams in full to see if he's named on field, which might give a bit of a closer insight into whether or not he can keep his spot. And Noah Long as well, who was spoken about alongside Chesser by Adam Simpson during his presser as a couple of inclusions. So I think they both will play. Out goes Darling, who broke his arm, so another injury for West Coast, unfortunately. Carlton Collingwood, DeConning, Boyd and Fisher come in. No outs at this stage. Collingwood, Darcy Cameron comes in, Finlay McRae and Harrison, and no omissions as yet. And to round us out, we have the Giants and St Kilda. Toby Green comes into the side. Riccardi Fahey could potentially make his debut finally. He's been tearing it up in the VFL. And Briggs, out goes Callan Brown, omitted. And with St Kilda, Webster, Maxi King finally making his debut for the season anyway. Gresham and Tom Campbell. Sorry, I got to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Tom Campbell. He don't know if he's going to play. And Tim Embry goes out through concussion. Jack Bytel. He finally might get a decent crack playing a full game, but again, maybe subbed out of the game. So that's pretty much where things sit at the moment. Flick back across to the stream. Where are we? I wish to bring up the questions. Sorry, let me just move some windows around here. Alrighty, so where are we? There we go. Alrighty, so feel free to send in any questions if you have any. Just refreshing it. I don't think any people have sent in any more questions. So might just take this opportunity to potentially, let me just do another promo tweet. And then we might be a short stream, which is totally fine, but obviously stick around for anyone that has any questions. So yeah, let me just promote. And in the meantime, you guys can flick through any questions you may have. And I'll go through in terms of my own team very shortly in the meantime, just to fill up some time whilst people stream in to the stream. Okay, post that one. Don't know if this is frozen. Alrighty. I don't know if this is frozen. No, I assume people are still in the stream. It's just not showing up on my end. Interestingly. Is it not? Okay, it didn't work. Interesting. Alrighty, so whilst everyone is in here, feel free to flick through some questions. Alrighty, so Adam Namith, thanks for joining us, mate. Says, I guts to know. Oh, very good, Adam, on brand. I guts to know. Should I be waiting a week for DCam? He's in the side currently, but unsure. Yeah, I definitely would, mate. I'm not a massive fan of bringing in guys that are coming back from injury, just purely because, I mean, anyone can break down with injury, but there's more chance of someone that's returning from injury who hasn't quite had match conditioning. breaking down and having a little bit more chance of that happening to them. So, yeah, in short, I would be waiting at least a week. I know his break even is around about 55 or thereabouts from memory. So yeah, I wouldn't be taking the risk. It's just not worth it at this time of year as well. I have seen a few people say they're going to jump on him early, but what are you gaining? If your team's in that bad a shape that you're desperate to bring in someone like him coming off an injury, I mean, at the end of the day as well, I'm not massive on him for the pure fact that Gawn is well on the frame to get forward ruck DPP eligibility. So he's going to be, for me anyway, in my side, taking that exact same spot that, say, Darcy Cameron would if I was going for him in my side. So I don't quite see the logic in doing it, because if you just have a look at teams, just using my team as an example, there's like Taranto, Dunks, Rosie, Cogs. Sheasel, you could probably say is 50-50, or you could have him in defence. And then there's Goulden as well, who I've got in my midfield, who you can have up forward. So it's pretty much stacked. Like if Sheasel was in defence for me, Goulden would be up forward, and that other spot here is gone. And then, of course, there's Walsh getting DPP. He's pretty much like an 80% chance of getting DPP at this stage. So, yeah, again, that kind of just fills the forward line a bit too much to the brim, to the point where it's overflowing. So, yeah, I'm not a massive fan of him. G'day, Lordy, 1912. Thanks for joining us again, mate. Similar thing, like I was just saying there, like Darcy Cameron, I wouldn't be going for him. I don't think he'd be hitting the heights of any of these guys here. I'm talking about Taranto, Dunkley, Rosie, Cogs. As I said, Sheasel, you could probably move him down to defence. Goulden should be in the forward line. And then there's Walsh and Gawn that you should be trying to fit into your forward line first and foremost, ahead of someone like a Darcy Cameron. I mean, he's at a decent enough price, $4.94, but you've just got to look at Gawn at the moment, and he's a super price. He's only, $24K more expensive than Darcy Cameron, and he's bound to get DPP eligibility unless something drastic changes and he's playing 100% top of the ruck, which won't happen. So yeah, I don't know why people would go for him, personally. Michael, thanks for joining us again, mate, with another question. North of the round 15 bye, would Zeeble, Sheasel, Drury, and potentially Wardlaw down the track be too many North players, as well as round 15 bye players? Better to choose Chesser over Drury. Yeah, spot on, mate. That's perfect thinking. Like using my team for an example here. So round 15, I've only got one at this stage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm not going to count him. 12, 13, 14, 15 players. If Johnson does play, then it's 16. And it means I need to bring in another 2 players. And if I was to go for Drury, it doesn't help me. Like I would probably be virtually trading Cowan this week down to a Drury. If I was going to do that, it's not going to benefit me anything. They've both got the same bye virtually, although not playing round 15. It's likewise with the Wardlaw as well. I think you potentially wait for Wardlaw. So with him, he has got, so the round 15 bye, that's correct. So in terms of when his price changes, sorry, I don't think you can see that there, apologies. Let me shift this back across. Yeah, so he's going to play round 10, 11, 12 will be his first price change, 13, 14. So he's going to have 3 price changes before his bye. Depending on how he scores, he might be someone that's just too awkward to bring in after his bye. So I think if you're going to commit to him, it would be yes, like, when he's on the bubble, and hopefully you can, have contingencies in terms of other players that are able to cover round 15. But again, he's that awkward buy where you could potentially, if he's not scoring well enough, combined with the fact that he's a higher price point, you could probably just bypass him. Yeah, so to answer your question there, Mick, Chesser is a better option. But yeah, just wait to see if he gets if he does stay in the side when it's finalised come tomorrow night for Sunday teams. But yeah, I think with the amount of outs for West Coast, I think he's going to be quite fine, and he's going to play around 15. Doesn't play around 14, which is another buy that's a bit troublesome for most people, but not as bad. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm thinking of Chesser ahead of someone like Drury. So Mick, yeah, 100%, mate. Keep your buys in mind when trying to separate and work out which rookies to go for. Aside from break evens and who's going to make cash, all that sort of stuff, because at the moment job security is king. Tim, thanks again, mate, for another clarification here. So sorry, I meant I can bring in 3. I can get Humphrey, bring in Rowell and De Goey, but if I want to bring in Goulden, I need to choose one of the cheaper options instead of Humphrey. Yep, gotcha, mate. I would say that Humphrey isn't. I don't think he's a must by any means. Like as I spoke to it earlier, he's at that really awkward price point where, you know, like in using my team for an example here, the only way I could justify it is if I was down trading like a Wilmot to him in order to generate a bit of cash from that trade. Whereas if I was to use Cowan, for example, here, let me just, clear the buys. If I was to switch Cowan to him, I'd have to find, what's that, an extra 9K in order to bring him in. So it's virtually, it's a sideways trade, but it's virtually almost a mini upgrade in order to do it. So it's a rookie correction trade in essence, because you're not generating any cash through that trade. And it's only when you trade in Humphrey that you get the cash return. So I'm not a massive fan of it. So it depends who you're trading down to Humphrey, Tim. But yeah, I like the look of Raul. De Goey, I don't think he could potentially. He's been scoring well. I can't see De Goey being a top 8 averaging mid. And I'd probably prioritise Goulden ahead of those other 2 guys, just purely based on price point. His break-even now is 7 for Goulden off the back of those 156 back-to-back scores. And he's going to go up another close to 50K, probably another 60, 70 potentially over the next couple of weeks. So if you haven't got him, get him in now whilst you can, especially because with Mills out, it's going to help him in terms of his CBAs. Adam, in the case of no decam, do I hold Chandler a week then? No, I wouldn't. I'd be using the reverse with Chandler. I wouldn't be using him as a stepping stone up. I'd be using him as a downgrade to another rookie, because if you hold Chandler this week, he's going to start bleeding cash. Just looking at his break even, it's 105. He hasn't eclipsed that score. Oh, no, sorry. No, he's fallen short by 1 point 3 weeks ago. That was against North, though. He faces Port this week. I mean, he could maybe, if he scores up close to the break even, he could maybe stem the cash bleed and maybe lose 5 to 10K. But I would not take the risk, I think. If you can trade him down, I'd be doing it now. But again, depends who you have to field, or if you're fielding Chandler, I think, as well, is the other thing to consider. Lordy, yes, but by the time Gawn gets that, he may be too expensive with that DPP. No, I don't think so, mate. Like he will be more expensive, no doubt. I mean, his break-even 71, but he's going to get DPP after next week. So, and I mean, his break-even will, depending on how he scores this week, that's kind of the barometer, because the 130 stays in his 3-round price cycle for this week. And then for round 11, it drops out. So if he doesn't score anywhere near that 130, his break-even's going to, like SuperCoach Plus shows here, is going to go up. So he may actually go down in price if he has a sub-100 score. Traditionally against Port Adelaide, what is the average? It's a bit of a life is like a box of chocolates here. He's got 160, a 50, and a 102. But again, he's still sharing the ruck with Grundy, which will stem the, I guess, scoring ceiling that he has. So hopefully, for our sakes, that he stays around about that 90 to 100 mark, and it means that he's not going to make much cash when he does get that DPP eligibility. I'm predicting that he's going to be somewhere between 525 or thereabouts which is still a decent price considering that he did start the season at 622. So I'm willing to wait on Gawn at the moment ahead of Darcy Cameron. Moving down the comments, Bailey, Chandler Hopper out for Sharp and Goulden. Yep, love that, mate. No, it's good. Looks good. The other thing I didn't check, completely bypassed. What an absolute idiot. Sorry, one sec, guys. Checking out teams. The complete oversight was the fact that Sharp has kept his spot. Jeez, I didn't even think about it. Apologies for that. But it does mean, of course, that Rich isn't fit enough yet. So it means that we're kind of pushing the issue we've got at the moment back a week, because if Rich comes in next week, again, he may go out of the side. So fingers crossed he has a half decent week. I think in terms of rookies available, we almost need to roll the dice on him and hope that he can keep his spot. I mean, there's other guys like Leicester. I think he's probably just as much chance to lose his spot. Has played in defence across the journey. He's probably the only other one, I think, looking at the team that may lose his spot. Reynolds should keep his spot. Wilmot should keep his spot. So it's between these two guys, I think, when Rich comes back in, unless they get another injury this weekend. So, Sharp is one to target 100%. So I do like those trades, Bailey. Adam, you've got Chandler and McKenna. I'm double ouched. Yeah, that's if you can't trade both out, you're gonna have to keep one, I think, depending if you've got other issues. Otherwise, it's one of those ones where if you can trade both out, 100% do it for sure. Speaks for itself, really. Empire, thanks for joining us, mate. Long-time supporter, of course. And if you haven't joined our Discord, feel free to do so. I will actually pop the... let me just switch across to... Where are we? I've lost me OBS window. I've lost me window. So you can just look at my big head at the moment. And I'll grab the Discord link for those people who haven't joined us yet, because if you want to have a chat about all things SuperCoach all day, all night, it's a 24/7 chat log virtually, so you can join us on that. Let me just grab the Discord link. No limit, doesn't expire, and everyone can join. Alrighty, so let's see if this works. Should be a clickable link. If not, just copy and paste into your browser. Join up to Discord, free to do so. And you can join our little community. Emp, sorry mate, you went sidetrack. You just reminded me. You said looking at Hopper to Walsh this week. Yep, that's good with DPP on the cards for Walsh. Yeah, I think it's good. It's been very much for my team, and it probably leads us to the next question there from Bailey Murphy about my own team. But I actually didn't even factor in the fact that Walsh was getting... I knew he was getting forward time, obviously watching games and stuff, being an insufferable, unfortunate Carlton fan. I did notice he was starting up forward at stoppages or centre bounce attendances and thereabouts. So I didn't factor in that he could have gotten forward DPP eligibility. So for my own team, it's worked out well and fortunate. But even for me, as I said, with Sheasel being there already, and I'm potentially looking to upgrade Ryan to a Gawn, I reckon Walsh will stick around in my midfield. But it does provide that flexibility, of course, as well, just to provide another swing with all these guys here that are midfielders traditionally that can play in the forward line of your team. Bailey, so Emper, ripping trade, mate. And thanks again for your support on through Patreon. Really, really appreciate it. It's awesome. And if you want to support, probably it's a bit of a segue there, probably should mention, if you want to support Liam and myself and what we provide every single week with our weekly vodcast podcasts, as well as my own little Damos Team Talk segment that I put out. If you like what we do, if you are learning stuff, if it's helping your season in some way with the advice and pointings that we're giving out, feel free to repay the faith, I guess. And, you can join up as a Patreon member, but no obligation, of course. But feel free to do so if you want. Bailey, so you've said, what's your season rank, mate? Looks like a class team. Thank you, mate. It's come together quite well. Super happy with it thus far. I am ranked. I'll just change screens again on OBS. I've lost that bloody screen again. Even though I've got dual screens, I can't navigate. There we go. So you can see their season rank is... I've been cutting my season rank in half for the past 4 weeks, I think, from memory. So I'm now ranked inside almost the top 1,500, which is pretty handy. And inside the top 1%. And I'll show you historically how my team's unfolded across the season to date. So I had a pretty slow start, like most people, 75k. Dropped down to 47, then to 36, then to 32, then to 23, then to 14, and then from then on, I've kind of cut it in half each time. So hopefully I can get inside, given this trajectory, inside the top 1k by the end of this weekend. But fingers crossed that happens. But yeah, need a bit of luck to go our way, of course, as well. And for the team to keep improving. And for all of my players, just score well together for once. And have a really massive score. That will definitely catapult us up the ranks. Moving back across to the questions as they're flowing in. Frankie, thanks for joining us, mate. The goats day, mate. Oh, you're too kind. Don't eat grass, though, unlike good old Matty Real. But thanks for joining us, mate. Really appreciate the support, as always, and viewership. I just had a bing in my ear. I don't know what that's from. Potentially Facebook. Anyway, I'm hearing things. Lordy, you've said I got a top 3% score this week, but am worried as I'm waiting on Laird and Neil because they both look pretty bad, but don't want to pay up for Sarong. Laird hasn't been the best scorer compared to, I guess, last year and previous seasons. But he was subbed late in the game. He's just not getting the game time that we hoped he would. He's been carrying a niggle. So I reckon after his bye, which is in round 14, he's going to go bananas. But be mindful as well that they have a couple of soft opponents coming up after round 11, leading into their bye with the Gold Coast and West Coast, one of those at Adelaide Oval. So hopefully he can reclaim that form. But yeah, he's had ankle niggles. He's had a few other issues as well. He started the season with a bit of shit form, of course, as well. But he kind of bounced back. But over the past 3 weeks, he's been nursing a niggle. There's no secret about that. So yeah, I'd be looking to bring him in potentially after his bye. His break even is 139. And if you haven't got Oliver, go for him instead, because you might be able to get Laird at a cheaper price point. Most definitely. Empire, I'll screenshot my team and stick it in the Patreon for you to criticize. Yeah, put it in the Discord, mate. I'll check it out. I know you've gone through a few issues as well because you've been having to field a few rookies, which is unfortunate, I imagine, due to injuries and the like. Lloydie, you've said, why I think I'll go Cameron, as he was great early in the season with the low break even. Yeah, do what you like, mate. Like it's your team at the end of the day. If you're going to bypass Gawn, yeah, you could probably warrant going for Darcy Cameron for sure. I just wouldn't recommend going for him first up after returning from injury with no match conditioning. But players do it all the time. But yeah, it's just something to factor in for myself. Tim, is Wines worth a look with the uptick in CBAs? Yeah, he scored well on the weekend, of course. Started to go up in price. He's dropped 160.4k, believe it or not. Incredible scenes there. But hasn't been scoring all that well. He's probably at the moment, he'd be ideally someone that you'd have as a sort of late season inclusion, almost like a bit of an M9 option you can play and loop off the bench, just because he hasn't scored a ton at all this season. He's been managed for minutes as well. Played his most minutes on the weekend. And looking at his CBAs, as you mentioned, where are we? Port Adelaide. This is, of course, DFS Australia. Check them out. Awesome website. So, yeah, his CBAs have kind of been up and down. They haven't been... Well, you can see there, he's kind of behind the ruckman, of course. Discount them. He's had the third most CBAs. So it hasn't been the worst. But I think, yeah, he's kind of been overlooked by, the likes of Rosie and Butters, especially over the past few weeks. Yeah. So it's interesting. Actually, was Boak? No, Boak's still on the team. So, where has Boak been named? I mean, you can't read too much into where they're being named on the team sheet because it always changes. He's been named on the wing. Wines in the engine room. So, yeah, potentially, mate. But again, at this stage of the season, I am still keen to go for those top echelon type keepers, the ones that you think are going to, finish in the top scoring or top averaging players in their position in defence, midfield, ruck, and forward. So I wouldn't be aiming for him at the moment. I'd be looking maybe. I mean, if you're struggling for cash, you may be able to look at him, but personally, I won't be considering him. Empire, there you go. Hopper to Walsh and David to Humphrey this week. Okay. I'll give it a squeeze, mate. I'll give it a squeeze. Let me just bring up the Discord. There we go. So people can see this, I imagine. Actually, they mightn't be able to because it's window locked. But virtually... so what have you done, did you say? Hopper to Walsh, yep, and David to Humphrey. Yeah, defense is looking pretty. Actually, you can see this. Yeah, you can. It's just popped up with the delay on the stream. Yeah, your defense is looking rather bare. Pretty obvious to say. But yeah, if you can loop maybe one of their scores on, and then go for Chesser maybe, or loop Chesser. What does West Coast play Sunday? Actually, they're all Sunday games, I think, which is an annoyance. Aside from that, having to play Radaglia, he's been all right. As you'll hear if you tune into the podcast and vodcast, I'm not a massive fan of Radaglia, but he's actually scored quite well, to his credit. Humphrey as well. Again, if you can loop on a rookie score between Mitchell and Humphrey, depending on who plays first, if you can even do that at all, absolutely. But teams coming together a bit better there for you, Emp, which is good to see. Bailey Murphy, thoughts on chucking the VC on Oliver and then going the C on Dawson? Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So Oliver plays first up against Port on Friday, tomorrow, obviously, which is what I'll be doing. So switching that across to Oliver V and then putting the C myself on Bont, I think, at this stage. But Dawson as well, I think you'll be more of a pod captain, I reckon, just because he scored pretty shite on the weekend. Yeah, and he hasn't had a really bad score consecutively back-to-back. He kind of bounces back. But they play at Mars Stadium. If they were playing at Adelaide Oval, I'll probably do it, consider it myself. But yeah, personally, I think I'll be going for Oliver into Bont. But yeah, don't mind it, mate. Don't mind that thinking at all. So I'll just have a quick squeeze at how he performed against the Dogs historically. 54, 141, and 81. So nothing too crash hot. And he averages a 79, which is probably one of the lower end in terms of opponents that he averages scores against. Adam, bit of a question, bit of a Damo's team talk type question here with regards to my own team. What do you personally at this point want your end side to look like? Well, as you can see there, in terms of rookies that I've got on the field, I've only got Chincotta, this spot here, which at the moment is either Simpson or Wilmot, and I'm kind of looping them on. And yeah, trying to loop on depending on who's scoring when, or who's playing when, and same with Seamus Mitchell and Samson Ryan looping on. So I think at this stage, I'll be looking to bring in or upgrade Samson Ryan to Maxi Gawn, because Samson Ryan has the round 15 bye, whereas Gorney is playing round 15. So that'll give me an extra player straight up, and he'll be walking into that same ruck forward position that Samson Ryan currently has. So it replaces him, gives me a better scoring player in Gorney, and then I can still use that swing if need be to cover these two guys here. So he's the first target for me. And then I'm looking potentially at, you can check out my watch list here if you can see that. I've got Tookie Miller, Lockie Neal, Sicily and Brayshaw in terms of other targets. So maybe try and bring in Sicily for that D6 spot. And then for the M8 spot, I'm looking to potentially bring in a Neil or a Tookie Miller. I'm not too crash hot on Brayshaw. I had him last year. His scoring can be very up and down. Now he's got Sarong to contend with in terms of having to share points around to teammates. So I think he's still a good pick in his value because, as you can see there, he's 69.6k lower than his starting price. Likewise with Lockie Neal, he's 100k less than what he was at the start of the season. But again, their scoring ceilings have dropped. So I might even wait for Tookie Miller, but who knows when he's coming back. So I might have to settle for a Neal or a Brayshaw, as well as Sicily to round out D6. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought much about who could be the D6 player. Maybe Luke Ryan. He's kind of, historically hasn't scored that well. He kind of tapers off towards the latter end of the season. There's no one else really that I like the look of. So it's probably Sicily at this stage for that spot in defence. But that's pretty much my plan. And then using these guys across the buys, as well as stepping stones and trade down options to fund those upgrades. Alrighty, so sorry, let me just get back to the questions. Maddie Parker, thanks for joining us, Maddie. Once again, I think you joined us last week, so thanks for tuning in. Bring in Darcy Cameron this week for cash gen or opt for Walsh, knowing he may get DPP. Same as Gawn. Do we wait or is likely too far gone? No, I think you can potentially afford to wait, which is what I'm doing with Gawn. But again, comes down to whether or not you can afford to have the money by that stage to bring in Gawn once he's given DPP eligibility. But if you're in my position, for example, and you've got a Marshall and a Darcy, you're not going to trade those guys out for a Gawn. Like, that's just a waste of a trade, really. So, yeah, just hold your guns. I think a lot of people will be in the same position as well, which mitigates the risk, offsets the risk of, risk in this sense of waiting for him. Will be at a higher price point, I think. But, yeah, shouldn't be out of reach. So, look to bring him in then. And, yeah, I spoke about it earlier, Matty. Just wind back if you can. If you've only just joined us. Spoke about Darcy Cameron and the fact that, he's going to be taking up the same spot in your team as a Gawn, and I much prefer Gawn as a lot of other people would. And Walshy as well, he could potentially afford to wait. Break-even's 125. He does score well historically against the Pies, as you can see there. And he actually averages the highest against Collingwood out of any team. So bodes well for him. But my team is absolutely putrid at the moment in Carlton, and I'm tipping we're going to get smashed. So I think it's going to be hard for him to really have a ceiling type score. So he probably could afford to wait. But I'd opt for Walsh ahead of Darcy Cameron if you're looking to bring someone in this week. And Gawn, look to bring him in over the coming weeks. Empire, Gawn, and Walsh likely to be sent forward, and Sheasel to defence for your own team. That sort of shores up your team a little bit more. So I like that thinking, mate. TK Mac. Hey, Damo, looking to trade Hopper and Chandler to Sharp and Stewart, leaving me 110k in the bank. Yep, that's good. I have one boost left. Is it worth using it to sideways Cowan to Humphrey for later upgrades? I would at this stage. I've used all, as you can see, they're all my boosts. My strategy was to use and upgrade them. Use them to upgrade my team ahead of the pack, which is part of the reason why my ascension in the ranks has been quite good. But yeah, there's no use holding on to them, I think. If you can afford to use it and bring in and capitalise, which is kind of what I did with my boost, capitalise on rookies and quality rookies at that when they present themselves. If it means having to use a boost in order to do it, 100% do it. I think Humphrey, if you can afford to do it at that higher price point, it kind of caps how much you can make from the direct trade. But yeah, Cowan to Humphrey, as I said, it means you're going to have to fork out an extra 9k in order to do it. But yeah, if you've missed out on those quality rookies to date, I'd probably opt to bring him in. But just be conscious. He's negative 59. He's going to have really good job security. And he's going to make you at least 80k over the next few weeks, potentially more. So I actually quite like him, but at that higher price point, it comes down to your team structure. If you can afford to do it, and if you have the trades to warrant doing it, which at this stage, I don't, because I've got 15 trades, and I have to be a little bit more frugal. So yeah, that's pretty much that, but I like that thinking there, TK Mac. in terms of Hopper and Chandler to Sharp and Stewart, as well as that boost of Cowan to Humphrey. Walsh or Merritt, that's a $1 million question at the moment. We had a few people, I think you might have sent in that question, Juki, for our weekly podcast, which we put up yesterday or a couple of days ago. So we answered that question in the podcast, but Liam and I were both split. He said Walsh, go for Walsh first. I said go for Merritt first. Much for muchness. I think they've both got very similar break-evens. Walsh has got 125. Merritt has a break-even of 120. So you can't really separate them based upon that. But I do think in terms of fixturing, it kind of speaks for itself here with Merritt. He averages quite well against the Tigers in recent times there. He's got a 137, 102, and a 150. And then, obviously, he's got West Coast and North as a bit of soft opponents coming up. So, in terms of that, in terms of scoring ability, that is a big tick compared to Walsh, who has a tougher ask against Collingwood. And then, I can't even recall who else we play. Sydney, and then Melbourne, then Essendon over the next month. So, he might find it a little bit hard in terms of scoring. And then, of course, with Merritt, he's had Parrish out of the side, and he's now got Setterfield out of the side. So, CBAs will be coming his way like an avalanche. So I know he's been played in weird positions. He's been played in the wing, played out of the engine room. But I think now, based upon those omissions, he should get ample time to score well enough with bulk CBAs. So yeah, I prefer Merritt ahead of Walsh personally, but I think they're both keeper material for me. So he's the other one that I'm actually thinking of. I don't have him in my shortlist. What an idiot. He's actually one guy that I'm thinking of bringing in as well in terms of guys on my watch list. So I really like the look of him, probably more so than Neil and more so than Brayshaw. He went bananas. He's gone bananas over the past 2-3 seasons coming out of the bye. So there's a bit of a correlation there. So I'm looking towards that. Aside from those key points that I made, which kind of weigh in his favour. Lordy, you've said Cameron Pick will probably bite me in the backside, but I feel I got robbed early in the season when I went Draper to him and he looked primed for a great season, and then had to go to Darcy, who has been a great pick for me and has been better than English ever since I got him in total points. Yeah, Cameron was a bit unfortunate. That was a little bit of luck on my side, and it was very much unlucky for those people that jumped on him. There's been instances of that happening across the season to date thus far, where people have traded in guys and they've just been injured. Like Darcy was one, Tookie Miller, Callum Mills, all those guys as well. So yeah, I think don't try to. I mean, if you can, I mean, it sounds like it's very much an emotional pick there, Lordy. You're getting him back in because he kind of shot you in the foot. Get him into your side if it's going to help you and it's going to take a rookie off field. At the end of the day, that's literally all you want, because that shows it's going to improve your side for that given week and for future weeks going forward as well. So back yourself in if you think it's going to improve your side longer term and provide you a bit of flexibility and a bit of coverage in the ruck as well. He's a good pick. But not for me, I don't think. JT's Funky Finds, thanks for joining us, mate. Thoughts on, do we hold Hollins, Baker and Davey for this weekend to see what these lower end rookies are doing? Wondering whether to make any trades at all for this round. Yeah, it's an interesting one, mate. Like your rookies that you've got there, they've probably got a little bit more cash to make, apart from Davey. Davey is probably one that I'd be looking to cash in. He's going to play this week. His break-even is pretty much, in his terms, in the realm of about 200. It's only 73, but he struggles to score. His top score for the season has been 66. He's been sub last week and managed for minutes as well in previous weeks. So, yeah, he's going to drop at least another. That's probably a close representation there. You can see in SuperCoach Plus. They're predicting him to go down 15k. He could go down 15 to 20k. If you can afford to hold, I would be doing it. Baker and Hollins, I think you can probably hold ahead of him. Their break-evens are 58 for Baker. Probably hit his peak in terms of the amount of cash that he's made to date. And Hollins as well. He's served you well. He's gone great guns. 129k. I had a feeling he would have made his debut early in the season. Obviously did in round one, but I was worried that he might have lost his spot when Walsh came back. But he's got great guns, good young player. 57 break even, and his average is 59.9. So yeah, you could probably hold him for another week, I think. His lowest score has been 51, so he's not going to lose much cash, you'd think, if that's his lowest score, and using that as any indication. So yeah, I'd probably hold Hollands and Baker. I'd be opting to trade Davey at the moment if you can. As I said, he's going to lose a bit of cash. You could probably do it to Drury. He's 102. I think his job security is pretty sound. Just based, as I said, based upon those injuries to North Melbourne and the fact that they need to blood youngsters. I think with Brett Ratton now taking the helm, he's going to give all these guys ample opportunity. He's not going to lose his spot as coach, even though he kind of did after signing a 2-year contract extension at the Saints, poor bloke. But he's a caretaker coach virtually. So he's going to play all the young players. There's no reason to win. In their position, they probably need to finish as low as they can to secure another high draft pick and quality youngster out of the draft. So I think if you're going for Drury as a pure cash play, he's a good one to trade Davey Jr. down to. But other than that, I think, for me, in my situation with Drury, I'm actually willing to wait a week, bypass him this week. And then if he scores about, 50, he'll go up, 30k or thereabouts and still be at 130k, a semi-high priced rookie price point anyway. So that's what I'm looking to do. But yeah, it's up to you, mate. If you wanted to trade, you could potentially hold off and not make any. So yeah, fair point. Matt's Chandler and Davey to D, Cam and Sharp for me at the moment. Yep, not bad. George Costanza, g'day mate. Thanks for tuning in yet again. I think you tuned in a couple of weeks ago for the live stream, so thanks again. Hey mate, love for you to suss my team. Ranked 570 currently and thinking to do Davey to Sharp. Yep. And Hopper to Cameron. Team name is Tanty's Hot Shots. I'll give a quick look. We might wrap up the stream very shortly, guys, because I need to chuff off and make some dinner because the wife has arrived home and I can't leave her in the kitchen by herself because that's not fair. Tanty's Hot Shots, is it? It's not coming up, mate. I think I had this issue last time. It wasn't coming up. It's not coming up, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. Tanty's. I don't know why it doesn't come up with the... okay, so... it's hard to really see your team based on the list view. It's annoying. So... David is Sharp. Yep, that's fine in itself. Doesn't matter how it looks with the team. And Hopper to Cameron. So Hopper to Cameron, I imagine you've shifted someone from the forward line into the midfield and upgraded Hopper to Cameron. Jesus, very solid team, mate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you've shifted one of those guys who are all, apart from Zeeble, mid forwards. And in terms of midfield, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you need to, have a little bit of depth. I like that, mate. It shores up your midfield with a bit of a solid scorer there. Shifting one of those guys from the forward line into the mids, and then Cameron up forward. Don't mind it at all. Cameron, McKenna, Fergus, Green, and Davey leaking money. Who will leak less money this week? Thank you. Hard to say. Again, it's rookie roulette, really. I think McKenna potentially leak the least. I know he's been leaking cash en masse. Oh, he's 88. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. I think maybe Davey, funny enough to say, he might actually leak the least cash. Fergus Green, his cash, his break-even is 107. So, yeah, I think Davey's going to leak the least cash. Fergus Green probably will leak the most cash. And then it'll be McKenna second in terms of leaking most cash. JT's Funky Finds, cheers for that. No stress, mate. Yeah, I was thinking of doing that with Drury, but then thought with both setters and Parish out, it was worth a hold or not. So with regards to Davey, you're talking about? I assume you're talking about Davey in terms of setters and Parish being out. I don't know what you mean by that, but anyway, Yeah, it's up to you. I think, as I said, Drury, you can potentially wait because he's going to be at an achievable price point at some stage, at least next week anyway. Lordy, I got in Cameron and Sharp out, LDU and another injury, and Philippou. Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate with these injuries. You can't do much about it. Don't stress too much, mate, says George. I just love to hear another opinion. That's correct. Rosie to the mids. Yeah. No, I like it, mate. It's really good. I think it's definitely an option. For me, it depends as well how much cash you've got. If you've got more cash to aim for a higher price player, definitely do it. I'd be doing it ahead of Darcy Cameron. But again, I can see the value that he presents, Darcy Cameron. So, yeah, he's a decent option. Decent option, no doubt. TK Mac, just having a look and after my trades this week. Our on-field team differences are Dawson, Walsh, Darcy, Ryan, Merritt, Butters, English, Wilmot. You got me covered, but tight battle. Yeah, for sure, mate. Should be good. It's I don't mind your team. Like with those guys that you have as points of difference compared to my team. Apart from I've got Wilmot, but Wilmot might even play onto my field as well, depending on how he scores. But yeah, Merritt and Butters are probably two other guys that I'm looking at. I said about Merritt earlier, but Butters is another guy that I'm looking at. English, I probably can't afford to get in my team now. Darcy's kind of turned it around, knock on wood, and Marshall likewise. But yeah, they're both definite options. That is for sure. Alrighty, guys. So we've been streaming for over an hour, so we might wrap this up at the moment. Thanks again for tuning in. Where are we? Sorry, George. Yep, I'll answer your question just quickly before we wrap up. You've said, what trades were you thinking? Missed the start of the stream just in case you already mentioned it. VC and C2. Yes, probably should end with that. That's probably what I normally do with my Damos team talk, and I've forgotten to do it completely. So yeah, trades. In terms of trades, I am looking to hold my trades if I can. I'm down to 15 trades. But again, like I've been saying, one of the strategies that I've adopted for this season compared to previous seasons more so is jumping on rookies when they present themselves, because at this point of the season, we're not even at the midway point of the season to date, and the rookies are looking very, very bare. So I'm lucky that I've gone early on those quality rookies and used my boost to my advantage in terms of jumping on those rookies that look good and have job security, good scoring ability, all that sort of stuff, which at the moment, it's all up in the air. Humphrey's probably the one with half-decent scoring ability, but again, a bit of standard deviation in his scoring. His job security is probably the best. Then it's Harry Sharp. He's probably second up in terms of job security / scoring ability. Tom Berry, as you know, is dropped. So, yeah, he's not someone to look at. Now with Ainsworth back in the team and as well, and there's a few other guys as well, Holman. And then Drury is probably the one who's got the least scoring ability, I think, of those 1, 2, 3. But he's up there in terms of job security. So I'll be looking to bring in one of those guys. I think, as I said, with Humphrey, he's at that high price point. I would need to dip into my my bank in order to fund Cowan to Humphrey. He's the one that's going this week for me, Cowan. But yeah, I think I'm going to bite the bullet and go for Harry Sharp, just because it helps in terms of my my buys as well. And it gives me a little bit of cash in return, around about, 70, 80k or thereabouts, by downgrading Cowan to Sharp. Whereas if I'm going for Humphrey, it's not going to give me any cash in the bank to really help fund the upgrades, those last 3 upgrades for my team. So that's the reason why I'm bypassing Humphrey and going for Sharp. And that'll probably be my only trade for the week. Be a little bit more frugal from here on out. In terms of V, C, and C, I am going to be putting the VC, pretty self-explanatory, on the big pink sweaty pig and Oliver. And then in terms of the captaincy, that's probably the hardest one to put on as to who you put it on this week. As you would have heard in our weekly episode, Liam and I do. If you haven't tuned in, make sure you check it out. And we've got a segment there based upon trades and trade in, trade out players and stuff. And We spoke about the captaincy as well in I'm the Captain Now segment, of course. That'll sound weird to those of you who haven't tuned in yet. And for those of you who do tune in regularly, you will know that reference because that is the intro to that segment. But yeah, I think we went through the captaincy and VC options, and there weren't any players that had like a decent matchup in terms of a historical average in line with the opponent they're facing this week, and in terms of form line. I think form line is probably where you can go off the most, and for me, that's the reason why I'm going to put the VC on Bont at Mars Stadium. Should play into the Dogs' favour as well, compared to if they were facing the Crows at Adelaide Oval. So yeah, he's probably my VC option. I don't mind Walsh again, but I'm just worried about my mob getting smashed by Collingwood, which I'm fully expecting. Darcy, I don't mind either. Like, he's one that might be able to exploit a matchup against Geelong. Let me just go to, before we finish off, we'll check out defence v position on DFS Australia for the last, we'll go last 10 now, but probably the last 10. So this shows like the matchup exploitations in terms of what part of the field opposition teams are bleeding points to opposition teams. So Freo face Geelong, and they don't give up too many points to opposition ruckman. So yeah, no real matchup exploitation there. So yeah, I think I'll settle on Bont. I think it's safe. That's safety for me in a week that there aren't really any standout options. Alrighty, so there we go. Great advice. Tim, yes, says great advice, man. Thanks for the stream. No stress at all. Thanks for tuning in. Lordy, Adam. So the missus team, actually the missus' team, not me, needs Bont or Oliver or even Petrarca. Do I want pig juice? Or, nice little reference there as well. Regular listener, so I appreciate that. With that reference, I can tell. Or SuperCoach's favourite son. That is Bont, of course. So, I think you're a winner either way, mate. I think you probably just play the break-evens at this stage. I mean, break-even for Bont's 133 and Clary's 121, and they aren't really something to factor in. I don't know why I mentioned that, because they can obviously hit that and smash it out of the park on any given week. Probably comes down to price point, I think, at this stage, mate. Like, if it means you're going to have to trade down to a shit rookie like a Drury, for example, like shit in terms of, not a really good scorer, but his job security is so-so, as opposed to someone else, in order to afford the higher price Bont, go for Clary. I think they're both keepers, so at this stage, go for Clary. He is someone that gives you captaincy scores from week to week. Bont does as well, but yeah, just go with your salary cap. And end of the day as well, look first and foremost how it works in with your buy. When do they both have the buy? I think at the same week. You watch them. Oh, no, they don't. Okay. So, Clary's got the buy in round 14. And Bont has the buy in round 15. So, see how that works in with your buy structure as well. So, if it works out better for you having Oliver in your team for round 15, or if it works out better with Bont being in your team for round 14, use that as the deciding factor as to which player to go for first and foremost. G'day Global, thanks for tuning in, mate. Okay, we'll be wrapping this up very, very shortly, as I said, because my wife is going to be very angry if I don't help out with cooking. Kevin, thanks for your help, Damo. No stress at all, man. Lordy, thanks for the stream and the advice. Keep grinding. I gave up on my channel, so great commitment. Looking forward to the next stream. Seeing your stream go from 14 to 2-inch within the last few weeks. Am I reading that correctly? 20, I must say 20 or something. But yeah, the streams are something that's a bit of an extra bonus, I think, in terms of regular content. Like, streams, it's always hard because so many people do streams at the same time as well. So you're kind of like wrestling for supremacy, if you want to call it that, but doesn't phase us. I think a few people um, have really asked us more than anything to do a stream, so that's the reason we want to give back to sort of the community first and foremost. But the main thing is obviously housing the content for our weekly vodcast and also the Damos Team Talk mini episode. So probably a bit of a nice segue here. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, if you can do so, that would mean the absolute world, because Liam and myself, we're trying to hit the 1K subscriber mark, and then we'll stop pestering everyone completely, because it does mean that we can monetize content. And really, as I said, like back to what I was saying at the start of the stream, in terms of having to pay an annual subscription fee to the podcast platform Podbean, their subscription rates have gone up, and we still have to dip into our own pockets to fund it, which is fine. But end of the day, we're not earning cash for what we do, which is fine. It's just a passion project more than anything. But yeah, anything that can help us out, and it means you guys don't have to dip into your own pockets to help us out, which we don't really want you doing. So literally all you need to do is just hit the subscribe button, and you can help us out in the short term and longer term as well, in terms of monetization, because it will mean that we can hold more cash leagues, we can do cash prizes, which we're doing at the moment through our Patreon program with our most rusted on supporters, which we're really appreciative of. But it also means that we can release some merch and stuff as well, t-shirts, hoodies, all that sort of stuff, which people have called out for as well. So it does help longer term in terms of giving back to you guys and girls that tune into our content from week to week. Lordy, yeah, sorry, you meant 20. Sorry, mate, I should have assumed. Yeah, I know. Yeah, g'day, Jonas. How are you, mate? You've said you just gone through the bloody keeper there. Didn't realise it was you. Damo, the main Meng. How many primos do you have out in round 15? I'll show you, mate. That's literally it there. So I've got, the guys that I do have available, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 if we're counting Johnson, but yeah, he's named as emergency. He could be sub. Unfortunate for us owners. But yeah, as long as he plays. But yeah, at the moment, I still need to find 2 guys to come in to help my team, which I can do so virtually straight up with the fact that... actually, let me check it here. Yeah, I can fix it almost straight away by bringing in Cowan to Chesser. Hopefully, Chesser keeps his spot, which I think he will from here on out due to West Coast injuries. And then I'll bring in a Gorn as well. Samson Ryan, I'll upgrade him to Gorn. And that immediately gives me 18 if Johnson plays. If I need to do another one, it'd be hopefully bringing in someone like a Merritt at that stage. He's probably the one that I'm looking at to fill that M8 spot. Yeah, or a Sicily for D6. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at for round 15. So not too worried at the moment. Yeah, you made a good point as well, yeah, Jonas, about that. Like the Sunday night is open for a live stream as scores drop, yeah, for sure. But trouble is, it's not an ideal time because either Liam or myself are out doing something, or we're engaged doing something else. So I mean, if we're free, I could potentially do it. This weekend, I'll be at the Collingwood Carlton game. Yeah, so that's the other thing, is that we'll be potentially at the footy. So for me, well, by the time that finishes, get home. Yeah, it might work, mate. It might work. I might give it a bit of a tester potentially if I'm free, but again, no guarantees. It just doesn't line up, unfortunately, with like Thursdays, for example. Like it doesn't work out well for Liam because he's working in the city, has to commute home. Whereas myself, I've got my own business and I work from home. So if I'm not out filming, I'm home editing, and yeah, I've got a bit of time up my sleeve to do it. So yeah, that's probably the reason why I'm able to do these live streams. It's a bit of a bonus for those of you out there that tune in. Jonas says, give a thumbs up now for fellas. Thanks, mate. Yeah, thumbs up and subscription. That would be awesome. But if not, that's fine. Can't force your hand. Kyle, I need to trade out LDU, Mills, Hopper, and Chandler Cash League. Yeah, you're in a bad position, mate, unfortunately. I mean, try, if you've got a boost, use 3. Use the boost 100%. Trade out Hopper. Don't worry about Chandler at this stage. I mean, you just need warm bodies on field at the moment with LDU, Mills, and Hopper all injured. So I'd be trading Hopper, using that cash to then fund, a slight upgrade on an LDU or a Mills who's bled a little bit cash on the weekend after scoring that 4 or whatever it was. So trade Hopper and then trade Mills and LDU as well, and play Chandler and just cop the cash leak on the chin, unfortunately. But that's the best of a bad situation. But that's it, guys and girls. Let's wrap it up now because I have to go and help out with dinner, which I've said for about the 6 millionth time. So thanks again for tuning in. Again, if you have missed our weekly podcast and vodcast, which is on, of course, this YouTube channel, flick across after this stream finishes and check it out. A bit more engaging compared to the audio podcast, which is also out there as well. Again, for those people that missed it, we did put out a notification where we're having some uploading issues through Podbean. Yes, that crew that we pay about $175 annual subscription fee to, they stuffed up, and it meant that it delayed the podcast for a full 24 hours, but it has been rectified. So if you haven't listened to it yet, you can check it out, or as I said, alternatively, check out the vodcast on the channel once this stream finishes. Well, that's it, guys and girls. Hopefully the team announcements have been kind to you. Feel free, of course, to hit us up across our socials on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Search SuperCoach Edge. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. On Twitter, at SuperCoach_Edge. I'm at DamoJ88, and Liam is LiamEvans_15, I think. One of those. Check it out. Just type in LiamEvans_ and it'll come up. Anyway, guys and girls, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and we'll catch you hopefully after the weekend where things have fallen our way and we can all put in a solid score. So thanks again, guys and girls, for tuning in, and we'll catch you same time, same place. We'll see you then. All the best.